Hi, it's Terry. Welcome back. And today we are going to take our journal, our little Have a Secrets journal, and we are going to begin to add another element to these pages. There were two videos about creating these pages, all about creating these pages. We added our note card so we can put our secrets inside. And we also finished detailing the pup and the cup and the love, as well as adding and embellishing just a few things on this page by the addition of borders. I did take this one step further, punched a hole on the end of this card, and I am going to add some sari ribbon later. I think that'll be a nice element and will give a lot of interest to this page. Today, we are going to take a blank page, again, a double spread, and we're going to add another element. Today we will be adding an envelope. I've assembled a small tray and I've got some of the elements that I'll be using in making this page. I've got some washi tape, wide and thin. I've got some acrylic paint, just white and periwinkle. A Sharpie poster paint pen for making dots. My trusty oil pastels, my oil crayons, water-soluble crayons, a stencil brush. In addition, I'll need a small paper plate. I've got a little piece of netting from a box of clementines that I'm going to use as a stencil. And I've got a stamping tool that's come from the empty interior of a roll of Scotch tape. I love this because it's got the double circles, a circle within a circle. Well, this is the blank page that's all ready to receive my images. I've dipped this circle in some periwinkle paint and stamped it. I've used this as a stamp. Before I did this, I used my netting, laid it on my page, and stenciled very quickly and very lightly with white paint. And that's how I got this beautiful kind of fish scale look or fishnet look. After I added my white elements and my circles, I went and got my poster paint pen and literally dotted around the circles. So after my circle was complete, I took my orange oil pastel, again went around the border just like I did in the green page with the blue, and blended that color in. Now this page is ready to receive the images. So let me grab my images and we will begin putting them on the page. I have a small tray, plastic tray, and I have filled it with potential images. I've got my lady, some butterflies, I've got some embellishment, scrapbooking type embellishment, a couple of feathers that I'll show you how we're going to incorporate these fluffy little things into our art. And this tray is already with pre-cut images. Additionally, I'm going to use an envelope, and I totally took this envelope to a new level. I'll show you this in just a moment. I also took one of my borders, grabbed an edge punch, and I punched a line of holes along this top edge very carefully. And once that was finished, I cut a 1-inch strip. Got two of them here, one smaller and one a little longer. I took this 1-inch strip and I added a line of purple water-soluble oil pastel to it. This is going to create a nice border for my page. My elements are assembled. I'm going to grab a glue stick. I'm going to start gluing some of these elements onto my spread. And when I get back, you'll see what it looks like. So give me a moment to do that, please, and I'll return. I've glued my chosen images to the page. I chose a lady, my little important reminder sticker, along with some butterflies, the border that I showed you before that was cut from a background piece. Just that 1-inch strip across the top. Look at the difference that it's made. The next step is to add our secret element. So we're going to take this plain Jane envelope. It can be any type of envelope. This one happens to be a new one, but it can be a white one, it can be orange, it could be brown, it doesn't matter. It can be recycled. We're going to turn this white envelope into this, and I will show you how I did this in just a second. I turned my plain Jane envelope into something very extraordinary by using simple tools. The first thing I did was dipped this little ring from Scotch tape into periwinkle blue paint, and I used it as a stamp all over this envelope. I used it on the outside, I used it on the inside, and I used it on the back. Now, if I didn't stamp the back, I could take this envelope and affix it right to this page, the same way we did the note card. However, I am going to use washi tape to attach this to the page because it will give me a hinge, and once it's hinged, I will have more of an area to use for journaling. I like that idea. Once I stamped all of my blue rings, I took my orange water-soluble oil pastel crayon. I outlined the edge, all of these edges, if you'll notice, the interior of this note card of the envelope, the back of the envelope. Everything on this is finished. So no matter what way you turn it, it's a complete object in and of its own self. Once I used my oil pastel, I smudged it just like I did on the edges of the pages in all of my journals. And then I added my embellishments and my images. On the front, I added some butterflies and a strip of sparkly tape from scrapbooking, my scrapbooking supplies. And on the back, I added another strip of border, the same type of border that I've added up here. Only this time, I edged both sides of it in the purple oil pastel. And I added to it a recycled sticker that I found actually from a bouquet of flowers that I got at the grocery. There are several ways to use the tape to attach and affix this envelope to the page. You can choose to use something like washi tape, which is what I will be using now, or you can use a decorative tape, a wide tape. If you go through the inspiration video, you'll see that I've used the decorative tape quite a few times to affix my envelopes to pages. But today, for demonstration purposes, I'm using the washi tape. There are also several techniques when it comes to affixing the washi tape to the envelope, which will be affixed to the page. The first is to, and I'm just doing this very lightly for demonstration purposes, cut 2 pieces of tape, affix them to your page, and voila, you've got basically a hinge. Of course, you'll have to get 2 more pieces of this relatively same size of tape, and that will make a nice pair of hinges to attach your envelope to your page. That's one of the easiest ways to do this, and it's very effective and it's fun, and you can add even different colors of tape. You don't have to use 2 slices of tape. Why not 3? There are several ways to attach the washi tape. I am using, for demonstration purposes, this very long strip of tape, and I pulled out my cutting board because it's got nice measurements on it. It just so happens this tape is 1 inch wide. So I've lined it up on a 1 inch, on a nice mark, so I know that this is 1 inch exactly. And I've taken a long strip of tape and very carefully laid it over and affixed it to my envelope. I'm going to cut it loose now. All right, that's step number 1. I've turned my envelope over, and I am going to very carefully cut and trim my tape. It's putting up a bit of a hassle, but no problem. There we go. And now we're going to affix it to our page, right where we want it. And I think, close the lid on my envelope. Honestly, I think I want it almost right in the center of the page, almost to the crease. And I am going to use my finger to make sure that that's secure. All right. This is the first hinge. We've got our first hinge in place. To make sure this is secure, we want to do pretty much the same thing on the back of the page. I cut a strip of washi that's a little longer than this envelope, and carefully I'm going to place half of it over the envelope, over the edge of this envelope, but I'm going to line up this edge, this outside edge, with the bottom of this envelope. So very carefully, and I can almost see the tape on this, if you look closely, you can almost see that tape. So I'm kind of using that as a guideline. And I'm going to carefully lay this and press it with my finger press it. And also take your scissor and carefully make sure that this edge is down nice and straight and tight, which is great. I'm going to turn this over, and now I'm going to trim very carefully to the edge. My arm is in the way a little bit, but there we go. Okay, my envelope is now attached to this page, firmly to the page, by using a strip of washi. Again, the same type of technique can be done with the wider decorative tape. My caution to you is that the decorative tape, this tape happens, you can hear it, happens to be very, very sticky. So when you're placing this tape on your envelope and on your images, you're going to have to take a little extra care if you decide to put your hinge on by using this tape rather than the washi. I do like using both of them. It's a matter of practice, it's a matter of technique, it's a matter of what you like. For our next step, I'm going to add an index tab to this envelope. And I am taking a heart shape, and I've added some glue on the back. I'm going to open my envelope. I'm going to turn this over and position it so that the heart is kind of centered on this envelope, but at an angle. It's very sticky. I've used Yoo-hoo. Now I'm going to take my feathers, and I am going to affix them carefully using a little bit of Yoo-hoo to the inside of this heart. I want to make sure that they're fairly secure. So I have been very generous with my glue. I've got my second heart shape. I've put my Yoo-hoo on the back of it. It's nice and tacky. And I am going to center it and make sure that it's aligned very carefully with my heart that's on the other side of this tag. It's a little tricky, but it's worth the time and effort that it takes to line this up. You want this nice and neat. And you want to make sure that it's stuck very, very well. Good. You may have to adjust. You may have to use a little more glue. That's okay. You want to make sure that this is on nice and solid so that when you go to open your envelope, it's securely and firmly attached. And now I'm going to take a piece of a fortune cookie and add it to this heart. I'm going to do that, and we'll be right back. One last look at our finished spread. I've got my images attached. I have outlined everything very carefully in black as I've done on the previous page. My envelope is ready to receive my secrets. let's just take another quick look at that. When I close my envelope, I can turn it over and see the other side. Once again, my images are stamped similar to what's on this background page. So it ties this whole spread together. And I've taken the strip. You can see how nicely now it relates to the strip at the top. I've also added my little flying puppy and put some whiskers on him. He's all set and ready to go. Everything is firmly attached with the washi. It's all ready for secrets, yours and mine. Thanks for watching. I've got a couple more things to show you. Let's move on. I've shown you how to attach a note card to a page. Today I'm going to show you how to attach this flap. I've positioned my background on the front and glued it to this template. And on the opposite side, I've got an old book page that I've glued to this template. Additionally, at the very top of this tag, coming in maybe about a half of an inch, you could do an inch, doesn't matter how far you come down with the tape, I've decided to use some colored duct tape. Caveat on this duct tape, it is very, very sticky. So when you go to place your tag, you want to make sure that it's very secure and it's where you want it, because once you put it down, it's very difficult to lift it up. I'm turning my tag over, and I am actually going to just fold it down just a little bit. I'm folding the tape underneath the top of the tag, and I'm just positioning it exactly where I want it. Since this duct tape is so sticky, you needn't worry about trying to use two pieces of tape on this tag. It's really very secure. It's not going anywhere. If you'd like, you can always trim it with another piece of tape. Sometimes I'll do that. But for all intent and purpose, this tag is ready to go and receive some images. So allow me to do that, and I'll be right back. Here's a look at my finished spread. I've got my template firmly attached with the duct tape, and I took it one step further and decided to add another piece of washi to the edge of this duct tape to give it a little bit of visual interest. I used my heart template and I cut out a string of hearts and put them across the page. I also added a few doodles to them to make them just a little more interesting. And from the same background, I cut a strip and I used my border punch to make it more interesting before I affixed it to the top of this page. Although I attached my background, the copy of my background to this template, I took it another step further. When I added my little bird, I also added a few paint dots with a poster paint pen. Just very easy to do, taking my pen and just adding a few more dots here and there to make it more interesting. That gives it a little more visual interest and ties it to the back of this page. I sprinkled some turquoise dots around the background of this page. On some of them I used my poster paint pen to draw some circles and put some swirls inside. I also decided to take that over to my tag so that this would be a cohesive spread. Once again, I took my turquoise dots and I dotted the back of this page and also did a heart at the top of the tag. When I open my tag, it coordinates very nicely with the line of hearts that I've got strung across the top of this page. I've also got my trusty crayons in front of me to show you that I did put a border around this tag on the outside of the tag and again on the inside of my tag. It ties it to this page. I also did the same on the outside of this page, just as I did in the previous pages. Once again, here's a look at the finished spread. It's all ready to start receiving my secrets underneath this little flap. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to show you one more thing. I'll be right back. In one of my previous videos, I showed you a library pocket. I'm about to show you exactly how I created this pocket. I've assembled everything I've needed for this particular library pocket, including the template. And I've got my trusty straight edge, which is very important, as well as the cutting mat. You definitely want to protect your surface. I've added a very sharp new blade to my X-Acto knife, so I get a nice straight, clean edge. And a bone folder is nice to have, along with a pair of scissors, some double stick adhesive if you have it, but if you don't, trusty old glue stick is just great. And I've got my images in here. I'm almost ready to cut out my template, but I'd like to just mention that I did have a background taken to the printer, and I had the printer copy it onto a heavier weight cardstock. It's very heavy and it's very durable, so I will use this copy to do my template of my library pocket. I carefully placed my template on my colored copy, traced around it with a pen so I could see where I was going, and then I took my X-Acto knife and my straight edge and cut everything out. So I'm ready to go. I've got my template all ready. I've turned my template over, and if you'll notice, I have a cuticle stick and my straight edge, and I am using the blunt edge of this cuticle stick, and I'm pressing into this template to make a score line. When I remove my ruler, this gives me a nice straight line, a nice crease. And now I can take my bone folder and really make it nice and sharp. I'm going to repeat that process on this side of my template, and I'll be right back. I've affixed my images to the inside of this tag, the little bits of maps. Now I've got my trusty double stick tape, and I have run a bead of tape right along this right side edge. I'm going to just now fold this over, press it down, and that's finished. I'm also going to take a bead of tape and roll it across the bottom. I've got this on wax paper, so it's not too sticky. And I've affixed the bottom of my library pocket. And there you have it, a library pocket ready to go. I've got my tag, and I've also clipped and traced a bit of the same map that I used on my library pocket. This will make it cohesive. It'll tie the page together. I've got a piece for the back and a small piece that I'm going to insert in the front. I also took some of the scraps and used a pair of decorative scissors from my scrapbooking supplies to edge this particular scrap. And I'm going to place it like so, and along with another image. I'm going to glue all of this in place, and I'll be back. I've prepared my library pocket. It's all ready to be added. Let me tell you a little bit about what I've done. I've taken my tag and I did attach all of the little pieces of borders to my front and my back right here, along with a copy of that map. And in addition, I added a few stars to this tag, and I added the same star to the template of the library pocket. That way it kind of ties these things together, and it's a nice surprise when you turn your tag over on the back to be able to see that there's a cohesiveness with this. I also edged everything with the water-soluble oil pastel, just like I did in the past. In this case, I've used the orange to tie all of this together with color. I've chosen my double spread. This time it's the blue background that we did earlier. And to it, I've added this little moon fairy. You too can have her if you go to my blog, Pringle Hill. You'll find a link to my Flickr, and you will find her in my free images on Flickr, along with a few other things. So you're more than welcome to download her. I'm now going to affix my pocket to the right-hand side of this page. And I'm going to do that by using my double stick tape. So allow me to do that, and I'll be right back. My spread is finished. I've got it all set and ready. My library pocket is firmly affixed to this page using a double-sided adhesive. I wanted to make sure that it's sturdy and won't come loose when I pull my tags in and out. In addition to finishing my tag, I did add a little fiber to the top that coordinates nicely with the colors I've used on this page. And I've added some swirls using a stencil, just very lightly to give it some movement. It coordinates very nicely with the embellishment that I've added across this library pocket with this strip. My moon fairy is on Flickr if you'd like to download her, and I've added a little bit more color to her as well as a few scrapbooking embellishments. So again, go into your closet, look and see what you've got. Don't be afraid to take a chance and add some fun things to your page, some fun elements. And finally, to finish this off, I did add a border of blue water-soluble oil pastel to frame the page and kind of pull all of these elements together. We've finished our journal, we've added our pages and our secret elements. Now we're ready to finish the exterior of our journal. I've taken some glass beads and added them to the threads for my signatures. It's just a little thing, but it makes all the difference in the world, and it makes me feel good when I go to use my journal. I also wanted to add a pretty closure. So I've cut a length of ribbon and fiber, a dual thing. I like the texture of it all. That's about 5 feet in length, and I've doubled it. I made a lark's head knot and threaded the fibers and ribbons through the flap on my manila envelope. This is why I suggested that you really gesso this when we were in the journal making process. It really needs to be sturdy enough so that you can tug just a little bit on these fibers when you go to close your journal. I'm taking my ribbon and I'm going to carefully wrap my ribbon and fibers around my journal twice. And I'll take the ends and just slip them underneath and through. And there you have it. Our journal is complete. Thank you for joining me on this fabulous journey. I have had so much fun having you in my classroom. It's been amazing. It's been an amazing experience for me, and I hope it's been a wonderful experience for you. I hope you have a journal that you'll enjoy for many years to come, and that I've given you many tips and hints and a lot of inspiration. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking this incredible journey with me. Namaste.